Welcome, everybody. This is the Soul Path Community class, and today we're doing the forecast for May 2025. We start out as usual with the ephemeris, and you have this to work with through the month to make your decisions about what you're doing, what are good days to do things. We're just about to have the new moon in Taurus. What day is it today? But it's 27th of April, 8 degrees Taurus. I feel like this is an important shift for new launches, new starts. For a few days, we'll have nothing retrograde. You can see here that on May 4th, Pluto goes retrograde at 4 degrees Aquarius. This whole year, it's going from 1 to 4 and back again to 1. And then it's going to move up to 5, 6 next year. So these early degrees of fixed signs are affected by the current Pluto transit. And you can see that the new moon is edging along. That's close enough to count that the new moon in Taurus is in a square to Pluto as it goes retrograde. So yes, we've got a new start toward groundedness, stability, security, but it also has to deal with Pluto's message that we must transform the radical energy that's happening at this time. And, as we know, we've been talking about Aquarius ultimately is progress and equality and a lot of good things that we want to experience in life. But in the short term, there can be exactly what we're seeing now, which is authoritarianism, chaos, lack of empathy. So we're really, Pluto is showing us deeply the shadow, and as well as, technology and how technology can possibly take over in good ways and in negative ways, and also how the people who have created technology, the billionaire bros, how they're going for power, control, and manipulation, which is Pluto. So we have, Pluto and Aquarius energy is infusing our world at this point in time. And now that we have the retrograde for the next few months, we get a chance to review what's going on, maybe make some different decisions and just change some things. Mercury will go into Taurus. We have a full moon in Scorpio, so 22 degrees Scorpio moon. That means the sun is at 22 degrees of Taurus. Then the sun goes into Gemini. Saturn moves into Aries. That's a really big deal, right? We know that Neptune moved into Aries at the end of March. Saturn coming into Aries, and they are both joining at 1 degree of Aries February next year. But this whole year, they're traveling together. They're like this close. They're both going to be in Aries for a while. They're going to go back to Pisces, back to Aries. They're close enough that they are already conjoining, merging, blending their energies. And we, will see more and more of the cultural shift around individualism, around fighting for what you need, about survival energies, new ideas, pioneering energy. We have Mercury going into Gemini, and then a new moon at the end of the month at 6 degrees of Gemini. Sorry, excuse me, lots of coughing. So we'll talk first about the full moon, and it's May 12th, 12:56 p.m. in Washington, 22 Scorpio, and you see it here. No, I'll come back. It's tightly conjunct Uranus, and Hygeia, the asteroid of holistic healing and cleansing, is my asteroid of the week. It's the one that I've been Actually keeping in the charts for a couple of weeks now, just seeing where it is in everybody's chart. And, I find putting all the asteroids in at the same time to be way too cluttered. You don't get to see everything. But I feel like this is spring season. It's the time that your acupuncturist will tell you that you need to do a cleanse, or you need at least to go in and get a treatment to change seasons. And so Hygeia draws us in Taurus to the body, to a sense of grounded, secure practices that help us feel like we are healthy in our bodies. And Uranus in Taurus wakes us up to the condition of our body and the condition of the planet, the condition of financial resources. And the sun, at being part of a full moon, is asking us to focus on the Taurus aspects of life. So thinking about security. And of course, with everything going on in the world right now, that is a big issue for everybody, right? Stock market going up and down. What's going to happen with tariffs? What's happening with wars? What's going to happen with Social Security? Like, we have a lot of chaos right now in our financial markets, and this is described by Uranus, Sun, and Taurus. Opposite the moon in Scorpio, the moon in a full moon asks us to look at where our habit patterns are, where there are emotional energies that we can release and let go of. And what is Scorpio? Well, it can be on that shadow negative level, over control, over manipulation, too much fear, sort of an inability to relax. Taurus relaxes. If you know any good Taurus people, they're very good at kind of letting things flow off their back and being solid and steady and easeful. And Scorpio, running amok, will be complicated and anxious, controlling, worried about things. And we sit here at this point in time with this full moon coming in May. And remember, we just mentioned a moment ago the new moon in Taurus. So the new moon in Taurus takes us into the early part of May's astrology. And we think about all the things we've been reviewing with the many retrogrades, especially, Venus, Mercury, and Mars have all been retrograde in the last few months. So we've been getting deep levels of personal review, and yet not really quite the ability yet to make things happen, to launch. And I thought about it the other day. I was thinking about, I'm always talking about new moons and launching and forward moving planets and launching. And how many people think they're launching anything, right? So many of us are on the treadmill, just doing our life day to day, maybe not even sure what we did 3 days ago. But we all do little launches all the time. We have an email that we send to somebody saying yes or no, I'm going to do this or that. We launch the cleaning of a closet. We launch a conversation with our partner about leaving their shoes in front of the front door. That's a personal one right now. And we have all of these moments in time where we're deciding, do I let this thing go? Do I move it forward? Is now the time to say anything, or just let it simmer a little bit longer? Maybe I'll change my mind about it. So when we have a new moon and we think about starts and launching, yeah, maybe it's a big deal. Maybe you're going to register your company and become an astrologer. Maybe you're going to do a website, or you're going to do a website upgrade, or you're going to apply for financing for something. Like, those are all launches. Those are all new moon activities. But the full moon is interesting because full moons indicate some kind of completion or culmination. And sometimes we don't know what that is either. Like, sometimes it is something that is for sure, and we're saying, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to let go of this pattern. I'm going to, not continue on with this field of study. You know, we can have these inner conversations with ourselves all the time about the things that we're doing. And we might have this strong feeling. I've heard from a few people just in this last week, I think on the heels of all of these retrogrades, people saying, yeah, I'm just really tired of the way my life is. I want to let it go. I want my life to be uh, more simple, more easeful. But then there's like, yeah, but I still need to do this, this, and this. I can't retire yet, or I can't make this change yet. So maybe I can just hone in on the amount of time that I need to focus and do the things that make sense. So these are the kinds of questions that are going to come up for you. Now that we're coming into the moons, these are fixed moons. So the signs of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius are fixed. These are the signs that do the work. They're the energizer bunnies. The cardinal signs start things. They're the ones that say, yes, let's build a business. But the Taurus gets in there and does the work and keeps going and going and going. So this moment mid-May where you get to just stop and say, okay, what's really working for me and what isn't? What do I go for and keep being the Energizer Bunny? And where do I have excess worries and fears? What have I accomplished? Where has it brought me? And then, you get ready for that next new moon that's going to be in Gemini, which is lighter. That's a mutable sign. Mutable signs adapt and flow and they're creative. So you may be thinking about in the Gemini time what you're learning next. Maybe there's some communication you need to do, uh, things that you're curious about. So that's kind of the overview of the month is we start with launching things that keep us secure. We think mid-month about what we've accomplished. We stand and we review our handiwork and we let go of what doesn't serve us. And then we think about the next start. Small, big, it doesn't matter. Now, when I'm thinking about this full moon in Scorpio, Pluto is the planet that is in charge of Scorpio. So what Pluto is doing in your natal chart at the time of this full moon is actually important. And Pluto in Aquarius retrograde, we are reviewing all things Aquarian in our own life, whether we have enough authenticity or not, whether we feel like our life is too chaotic and we want more stability in it. And it's interesting that it's in a square of Mercury in Taurus, very tight square at the time of the moon. Mercury in Taurus is leading us to think about security and stability and make choices in alignment with that. We process, we think about the data we have about what causes us to feel secure or not. And it's kind of interesting that the sun in Taurus has to deal with Uranus. So the sun can't just sit there and be, oh, I feel like nice and secure and steady, and I'm having a nap with my cozy blanket and eating a sandwich. And Mercury can't think about what it wants to process and think about to be secure and stable without having to contend with this plutonic Aquarian energy where the shadow side of this revolution we're in is in our face all the time. So we're having to create stability all month long, even in the face of upheaval. Okay, so even in the face of upheaval, we have to create a sense of security and stability. How do we do that? We monitor how much news and social media we take in. We get outside in nature. We find ways to be with our tribe, our people, and connect and just let go of the endless sense of doom and chaos. We read things that ground us. I highly recommend reading your favorite books right now that guide you toward spiritual consciousness. The Tibetan Buddhists went through the Chinese military, taking over their country, burning their libraries, and killing many, many, many of their people, including the monks. Somehow they managed to find equanimity even in that. People in the Holocaust, some of them found peace, found little moments of joy, even in the worst possible circumstances. We have that capability as humans to be our best, even when things are difficult. And as we go into this Aries cycle, where we have Saturn and Neptune, you see them over there, Saturn coming into 29 degrees Pisces, going to come into Aries. Those two planets coming together and creating an Aries cycle, which I understand has not happened, the two of them joining in Aries, since like 500 BC. We don't have any recent experience to tell us what this will be like. So we just have to work with the symbols, and we have to think about spirituality, intuition, creativity that is transcendent, compassion, oneness, all that beautiful expansive energy of Neptune in the fiery, go for it, make it happen sign of Aries is saying, yeah, we've had all these years of this download of Pisces energy, bringing us to this new state of consciousness. But now you've got to pioneer it. Now you've got to start it. Now you have to build businesses that reflect it. And you have to fight the people who don't want it. It's crazy to me that we have to fight people to have consciousness, to have food and shelter for all people, to have medical care for all people. I don't understand why anybody is against that, but they are. And so then comes along Saturn. Now, Saturn will only be in Aries for 3 years, 2, 3 years, like it always is. But Saturn gives us the ability to build something, to be successful, to have a vision and make it happen. So in Pisces, and it's still on and off in Pisces for the whole year. So we're not out of this woods yet. We still have the mandate to be serious, disciplined, and mature about our spiritual practice. And if you're not doing that, you are being overwhelmed right now. If you're overwhelmed, if you're in sad Pisces, just kind of can't stop crying, can't get out of bed because of the pain of the world, which I totally get. I have moments of feeling that myself these days. It's just like, it's too much. I can't read too many of the news stories all at once. But if you can't get out of the overwhelm, the key is discipline in your spiritual practice. It is holding the boundaries, doing the meditation, doing the yoga, getting in nature. And then as it goes into Aries, then we know that we have to stand up for these new ideas. We have to structure and stabilize the fight. I think one of you said as we're coming into this call, that you hope that May brings us more of a fight, for the revolution. By the end of May, I would say, yes, that's true. I feel that Saturn will plunge us into a more organized viewpoint about the changes that need to happen and the new ideas that we want to ground and land. And there will be some kind of pitched battle that is fighting on behalf of spiritual concepts. And that's all we can do is organize the resistance and make it happen as best we're able to. Now, I also noticed in this chart that Jupiter and Chiron form a yod to the moon. So a yod is called a finger of God, and it is an aspect pattern that we see that two quincunxes, Mercury to the moon and Jupiter to the moon, indicate that those planets can't really talk to the moon. Okay, so Jupiter, expansive beliefs that we are synthesizing, is invisible to the moon in Scorpio, that is emotionally going deep and complicated. And Chiron in Aries, the capacity to heal and feel like we can do it, we can make it happen, we can fight the good fight, we can teach and heal with Aries energy. It also is invisible to the moon, and the moon doesn't know about that. And even though it's kind of a temporary yod, the fact is it is imprinted into the sky at a full moon period. So these points become kind of sensitive. Now, with a yod, we always look at the sextile that is between the two bottom planets, and they can talk to each other. Jupiter in Gemini, with its expansive information, can connect to the healing around our ability to be independent and do what we want. And actually, the midpoint of them is right at the sun. So that sun in Taurus holding the ability to make choices that are grounded and stabilizing is where we bring together this expansive consciousness and healing. And then we can bring that together, because you can draw an opposition together in a compromised place. Then we bring the stability and security and the depth and transformational power of the moon. We bring them together. Now we see by mid-month that we have Mars in Leo at 11 degrees. If you remember back to December when Mars went retrograde, it was around 6, 7 degrees Leo. Went all the way back to about 17 Cancer. Now it's come forward and it's past the shadow by this full moon, and is forming some level of trine with Neptune. So Mars in Leo, action, willpower, going forward, making things happen in a creative Leo way. And that's going to draw some of the Neptune Aries energy to it. And also the Saturn energy. It's out of sign, but there's a little bit of that flavor already of this higher consciousness and the hard work that we're going to be doing. And so this is a little bit more of an indication of the fight going forward. So there's a lot going on here that tells me that the revolutionary impulse to change the world is particularly strong in May. And in your own chart, of course, which is what we're really talking about here, mostly in this group, is we're talking about how this affects you in your chart. So you're going to look at the moon location, like where's 22, 26 Taurus, where's 22 Scorpio, maybe what's starting to evolve with so much moving from Pisces into Aries. Now the Aries part of your chart is fully being activated. And you can also see, like right now, we're very much in the heart of the Pluto-Mars opposition, right around 3 degrees. It has been this last couple of days squaring the sun in Taurus. And so we've had a lot of tension. I've seen a lot of people be really grouchy. And now that it is, you know, past, in this, let me backtrack a step here. Today that I'm speaking to you is what I think it's the 25th of May. Tomorrow is Saturday. That much I know. Today is Friday. Tomorrow is Saturday. And tomorrow is the day that Pluto and Mars are exactly opposite. To me, that doesn't matter so much because they've been very close for over a week, and we have felt their energies where we really within ourselves need to bring together the power and intensity and transformational energy of Pluto with the active drive of Leo, Mars and Leo. But by this full moon mid-May, they are no longer in a strong opposition. And my sense is that, a great deal of the intensity and the chaos we've been in for the last couple of months, we maybe get a little bit of relief here as we're moving into May. The moon is in a trine with the North Node, so that indicates that that emotional energy piece can be used to help us move into the surrender trust process of a North Node in Pisces, which that's what we're asked to do, right? And the moon is in a sextile with the South Node. Now, the South Node in Virgo is asking us to let go of overanalysis and worry and being picky as we keep coming into Pisces. That moon can go either way. The moon in Scorpio can keep us trapped. Scorpio and Virgo will tend to collude with each other about worrying. Virgo worries in a mental level. Scorpio kind of worries in a psychic, spiritual level, like goes into deep, unseen things, whereas Virgo will worry and analyze things that are more worldly. The key here is to take that moon and its desire for depth and intensity and apply it to building the Pisces. So that's what we're working toward with this full moon. Also, the moon is quintile Pluto. A quintile is a creative aspect that can be obsessive and compulsive. So this moon can either be creative and you can use this plutonic energy to transform something in your life. Maybe, moon represents home. Maybe this is a great time to transform something about your home that you want to work with. This is gardening time, maybe something outside. But also it can be kind of compulsive. So if you feel as you're moving through May that you're being too compulsive and intense and worried, keep coming back to Saturn and the North Node in Pisces and facilitate positive Pisces in your life, surrender, trust, and creativity. And then the new moon, May 26th at 11:03 p.m. Eastern, at 8:03 Pacific. And that's going to be at about 6 degrees of Gemini. And you see it here in this huge stellium. So new moon, new starts, going forward. Again, if there's something you want to learn, read, write, this is a big Gemini. Mercury, the Gemini planet, in its own sign, that's got power. It's with that new moon. Hygeia. So we're moving from Hygeia, giving us this message about holistic healing for the body. And I would say Hygeia in Gemini either gives us new information about our healing process, but can even be about healing our minds, healing the way that we're speaking, communicating, talking. Use Hygeia for that. And Uranus in Taurus, but it's still part of a stellium, grouping of 3 or more planets in the same sign, in the same house. And Uranus is right on the edge of the house, and it's close enough to Hygeia. So this is all working together. And because Jupiter is in Gemini, we will count that too. So all of that new moon is power packed around bringing in beliefs of Jupiter, healing of Hygeia, information from Mercury, and radical change and awakening and authenticity from Uranus. That is a lot of energy to move things forward. And it has the support of Pluto. So There'll be some revisions and some deeper understanding of some of these Aquarian issues that we're working with. We don't have any planets in Pisces. This is the first time we don't have any planets in Pisces for a long time. How long? Well, first of all, Neptune started in Pisces in 2011. So it's always been in Pisces for years. And Saturn's been there since 2023. So Pisces has been abandoned. And instead, here, look at how close these guys are, Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Venus in Aries with Chiron, lots of potential for relationship healing. And the relationship healing will be about how can I be in relationship and also do what I want and feel alive, feel free. Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Again, the spirituality grounded, landed, matured, organized. We are organizing Aries energy. We are healing Aries energy. This will give a lot of courage, a lot of bravery coming through all of us to do what we need to do, whether we're talking politically or we're talking personally in our own lives. What changes do you feel you need? You've probably been thinking about them for months, if not longer. But this is the time, the traditional gender-based astrology, air signs and fire signs are considered masculine, meaning not about men necessarily at this point in our hopefully conscious space in the world. But look at that. I mean, apart from the nodes, which are in the feminine signs of Virgo and Pisces, everything is air and fire. This is action time. This is intelligence time, thinking about things and taking action. In my personal chart, I have a lot of fire and water, as you know. So I feel things and I take action. I have intuition and I take action. But this is different. This is we think about it, we process, we analyze, we hold it in connection with our beliefs and our truth. We connect to what this shadow exploration is around Aquarius. And then all that Aries and Mars in Leo, we act, we make it happen, we go for it, we launch. That's what's going on by the end of the month. And that is just after Norwalk weekend, when, so many of us will meet in Seattle to explore astrology together. I hope I see some of you. I'm going to be there. And, going forward, the outer planets in general are all moving into air and fire if they haven't already. So one of the next ones to go is going to be Uranus. I guess I kind of missed that one. So that one is still in Taurus, which is considered Earth feminine, but it is part of the stellium with Gemini, and it's venturing into Gemini a little bit this year and will fully be there next year in a trine flow with Pluto. You see that the new moon, okay, here it is 6 degrees, is quintile Mars, quintile the Saturn-Neptune node, and with quintile the ascendant, which only matters if you're in the East Coast with this. But these quintiles bring about kind of a creative potential, as well as that potential for obsession. So I'm very excited to see some of these moons in some of your charts. I will mention here in terms of my upcoming events that the Turkey Astro Art Conference, which I was supposed to go to Istanbul in May and decided not to because of the, immigration border issues coming back. They have asked me to teach my workshop by Zoom. So I don't know if that's going to be really interesting for those of you who are, here and study with me to see that, because it's going to be translated into Turkish. So it's going to be drawn out, right? I speak, the interpreter speaks, I speak, the interpreter speaks. But I am probably going to put it on my website. So if you want to, you could do that. Or if you speak Turkish, it will be perfect. Kepler College Symposium from September 5th to the 7th in Niagara Falls, nice little conference. The Astrology of Love in 2025, really applying the changes we're in with Neptune and Saturn coming into Aries, applying that to relationship astrology. And the Path of Relationship Evolution with Astrology Niagara is going to be an online event also. So that is what is up, as well as all my classes, my Saturday classes for the year are now available for registration on the website. So there's some good stuff happening in the fall, as well as in May. May 3rd, we have the Intuitive Saturdays, and we also have the life cycle class where we look at Saturn returns, Uranus oppositions, and all of the aspects that we have that represent our growth and maturation, and we all go through them at the same time. So that's a very accessible class, even if you don't feel you know a lot of astrology, and that starts May 3rd.